Are you tired? Not tired from work, not tired because you stayed up late, but tired in a deeper way. Tired of carrying the same worry every morning when you open your eyes. Tired of trying so hard and still feeling like something is missing. Tired of looking at your life and thinking, I need things to be different before I can feel okay. If that sounds like you, stay right here because today something is going to shift. 2,000 years ago, a wise man in ancient China looked at the world around him. He saw people rushing, pushing, fighting. He saw them trying to control everything and losing themselves in the process. And he wrote something that would reach across centuries and find you today. He said, stop fighting. Start flowing. His name was Laozi, and the wisdom he left behind was called the Tao. Today, I want to share that wisdom with you, not in a complicated or unclear way, in a simple, honest way that fits your real life starting right now. This is a graded lesson for English learners who love deep, calm ideas. Here is my promise to you. By the end of this lesson, you will know 7 ancient truths from the Tao. And those truths will show you something that most people never realize. You do not need to change your job. You do not need to change your city. You do not need to change your circumstances. You only need to change the way you hold them. That is a completely different way of living. And it may be the most freeing idea you will hear today. Flow, don't fight. That is the heart of everything you are about to hear. If that idea speaks to you, subscribe right now. There is more coming. Let's begin. Truth 1, what the Tao really is. Many people hear the word Tao and think it is something complicated. They think it is for monks or philosophers or people who sit in temples all day. Let me make one thing clear. The Tao is not complicated. It is one of the simplest ideas in the world. And in a way, you already know it. You have just forgotten. Listen carefully. The word Tao means the way, not a road, not a rule, the natural way that things move. The way water finds the lowest point and settles there. The way seasons turn without anyone pushing them. The way a tree grows toward light without being told to. The Tao is the quiet pattern beneath everything you see. Laozi wrote about this in a small book called the Tao Te Ching. He wrote it more than 2,000 years ago. 81 short chapters, simple words, deep meaning. And at the center of every chapter, the same lesson. Go with the flow of life, not against it. He called this Wu Wei. In English, it means something like effortless action or non-forcing. It does not mean doing nothing. It means acting at the right moment in the right way without pushing what is not ready to move. Think about a river. Watch how it behaves. When it meets a rock, it does not stop. It does not panic. It does not fight the rock. The river simply finds a new path around it and keeps going. The river moves. The river turns. The river arrives. And what happens to the rock? Over time, the constant gentle movement of water shapes it, smooths it, slowly, quietly changes it. Not by force, simply by flowing. That is the Tao. Now think about your own life. How often do you meet an obstacle and decide to attack it head on? How often do you push harder, worry harder, try harder, believing that more effort will break through the wall? And how often does that leave you more exhausted than when you started? Flow. Don't fight. Lao Tzu believed that most human suffering comes from going against the natural flow of things. When we force outcomes that are not ready, when we try to control people who cannot be controlled, when we resist what has already happened, as if our resistance could travel backward in time and undo it. The Tao does not ask you to stop caring. It does not ask you to stop working. It asks you to stop forcing. There is a difference, a quiet but powerful difference. And that difference is where peace begins. Carry this question into the rest of today's lesson. Where in my life am I fighting the current? Where am I pushing against something that will not move? Just let that question sit quietly in your mind, like a leaf resting on the surface of a river. Here is something important to understand. Wu Wei is not a modern idea. It is not a trend from a self-help book published last year. It has been lived by millions of people across thousands of years. And the reason it has survived so long is simple. It works. Think about the people in your life who seem naturally calm, not because nothing bad happens to them, but because they respond to difficulty in a different way. When something goes wrong, they don't immediately explode. They pause, they adjust, they let the moment settle before they move. That is Wu Wei in action. They may not even know the word, but they are living the principle. Now think about the people who exhaust themselves, who are always in conflict with someone or something, who feel like life is constantly working against them. Often those people are not in more difficult situations than the calm ones. They are simply fighting harder against the current. And the harder they fight, the harder life pushes back. This is not a criticism. It is an observation. And it was Lao Tzu's observation too 2,000 years ago. Human beings have always had the same tendency. We want things to be different from what they are. And instead of flowing around the obstacle, we throw ourselves at it again and again, wondering why we are tired. The Tao says you don't have to live that way. You were not born tense. Watch a small child playing. They don't worry about tomorrow. They don't replay yesterday. They are completely inside the moment, completely inside the flow. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, most of us lost that. We were taught to plan, to control, to push. And some of that is necessary, but we took it too far. The Tao is an invitation to remember something you once knew, that life has a current. And if you learn to work with it instead of against it, you don't have to swim as hard. You can arrive somewhere without exhausting yourself completely on the way. That is what this lesson is about. Not giving up, not stopping, just learning a different way to move through your own life. Truth 2, where stress really comes from. Here is a question most people never stop to ask. When you feel stressed, what is actually causing the stress? Most people answer without thinking. My job, my money, my relationship, my health, the traffic, the news, other people. And yes, life sends us difficult things. That is real. But here's the truth. The difficult thing and the stress are not the same thing. The event happens outside you. The stress is created inside you by the mind. This is not about thinking positive. This is not about pretending things are fine when they are not. This is something much deeper than that. This is the second ancient truth of the Tao. Laozi taught that the mind has a natural state, a calm, clear state, like a still pond on a quiet morning. In that state, you can see everything clearly. You can feel what is real and what is imagined. The Chinese word for this state is pu. It means uncarved wood, the original form of something before hands have shaped it. Your original mind before years of worry and fear carved their marks into it. The problem is that most of us never stay in that state for long. Life sends something difficult, and instead of responding from stillness, we grab it, we hold it, we squeeze it. We turn it over and over in our minds, adding layers of fear, adding stories about the future, pulling in memories from the past. We make it heavier than it already was. Here is a simple image. Hold out your hand and imagine it is holding water. If you keep your hand gently open, the water stays. But the moment you close your fist and squeeze, the water escapes. The tighter you grip, the less you hold. Most people look outside themselves for the source of their pain. They believe that if circumstances would change, the stress would disappear. The Tao points in a completely different direction. It points inward. If your job is difficult, if your money is tight, if your relationship is causing you pain, ask yourself this honestly. How much of what you are feeling right now is the actual situation, and how much is the story your mind is building around it? The memory it is dragging in, the fear it is projecting forward. This is not easy to answer, but sit with it for a moment. Because here is what the Tao shows us. Two people can face the exact same situation and experience it in completely different ways. One person loses their job and stays in that loss for months. Another person loses the same job and within 2 weeks begins building something new. The event was identical. What was different? The mind that held the event. This is not about being strong or being weak. It is about understanding where stress is born. Stress is not delivered to you from the outside. It is produced moment by moment inside the mind. And if the mind produces it, the mind can also reduce it. You don't need to fix your problems today to start feeling better. You need to change the way your mind is holding them. That is a path available to you right now without changing a single thing in your circumstances. The next truth is going to show you exactly how. And when you hear it, something may begin to shift. Truth 3, letting go is not giving up. There is one idea that stops more people from finding peace than almost anything else. It is not a circumstance. It is a misunderstanding. Most people hear the words let go and feel afraid. They think letting go means giving up. They think it means saying, I don't care anymore. I accept defeat. I have stopped trying. They think it means lying down and letting the world walk over them. And that fear makes sense. We have been taught since childhood that persistence is a virtue, that winners never quit, that you hold on and fight through. That message is not wrong, but it is incomplete. Because sometimes holding on is the very thing that is hurting you. Now think about this. Have you ever watched a willow tree in a strong wind? The willow bends, the willow swings, the willow stays. Its branches swing so far they almost touch the ground. The whole tree moves with the wind, not against it. And when the storm passes, the willow is still there, still rooted, still alive. Then look at the old rigid tree in the same storm. Strong and proud, it holds its shape against the force of the wind. It will not give, it will not bend. And sometimes it breaks. A branch falls, the trunk cracks, because it could not give way. The willow did not give up. the willow survived. Letting go is the wisdom of the willow. Bruce Lee, one of the greatest martial artists who ever lived, carried this same idea. He said, "Be like water. Water does not fight the shape of a container. It flows into it, fills it completely, takes its form. If the container breaks, water simply moves on. Water is not weak. Given enough time, water cuts through stone. But it does not fight what it cannot immediately change. It flows. A weak mind sees letting go as losing. A strong mind understands that releasing what you cannot control is not defeat. It is a form of wisdom that most people spend their entire lives looking for. Here is the difference in plain words. Giving up means you stop caring about the outcome. Letting go means you stop forcing the outcome. You still care. You still take action. But you release your grip on the result. You do your part and then you open your hand. Think about what holding on cost you. Every old resentment you carry requires energy to maintain. Every regret you replay uses mental space that could be given to something new. Every outcome you try to control takes attention away from what you can actually do right now. Holding on is not free. It costs you quietly every single day. There is a well-known Zen story about a monk crossing a river. He is holding a large stone. He is struggling. The current is strong. His arms are tired, but he keeps going. A teacher on the bank watches and calls out, "Why are you still holding the stone?" The monk looks down. He had forgotten he was holding it. Most of us are like that monk. We carry things we picked up long ago. Old arguments, old failures, old fears, old words someone said to us years ago that we never put down. We forgot we were holding them. They became part of how we move through life. Heavy, slow, tired. The Tao asks a quiet but powerful question. What would happen if you put the stone down? You would not stop being yourself. You would not stop caring about the people you love. You would simply be lighter. And when you are lighter, you move further. You see more clearly. You arrive somewhere better. You don't have to let go of everything today. Start with one thing, one old anger, one fear you have been holding too tight, one outcome you have been trying to force. And just for today, practice opening your hand a little, not giving up, just putting the stone down. That is where your freedom begins. Truth 4. Stop pushing life. The modern world celebrates speed. Move fast. Do more. If you are not pushing, you are falling behind. That is the message we hear everywhere, every day. The Tao says something completely different. There is a time for action, and there is a time for stillness, a time to plant and a time to wait. And the wisdom to know the difference between these two moments is one of the rarest things in the world. Think about a farmer. A good farmer understands something that busy, impatient people often forget. The farmer plants, the farmer waters, the farmer waits. The farmer does not stand over the seeds and shout at them to grow faster. The farmer does not dig up the seeds each morning to check if they are developing. The farmer does not feel like a failure because nothing is visible above the ground yet. The farmer knows that growth is happening underneath the surface in its own time, following its own natural rhythm. Now, compare that to how most people handle their lives. We plant something, and if we don't see results within a few days, we panic, we dig it up, we replant somewhere else, we question everything. We push and redirect and start over again and again, never giving anything enough time to grow. Pause for 1 second. How many things have you abandoned too early? How many plans did you drop before the roots had set? How many times did you mistake early difficulty for permanent failure? How many seeds did you dig up just before they were about to break through the surface? The Tao teaches that timing is not your enemy. Timing is part of the process. And learning to move with timing rather than against it is one of the most powerful changes you can make in your life. The impatient person forces every door. The patient person discovers that most doors open by themselves when the moment is right. This is not about doing nothing. Let me be clear. Wu Wei does not mean sitting still and waiting for life to bring things to you. The farmer still plants. The farmer still works. But the farmer does not carry the full weight of the harvest into every single hour of every single day. The farmer does the work and then trusts the process. Flow, don't fight. There is a kind of action that moves things forward, and there is a kind of action that is just noise. Busy is not the same as effective. Forcing is not the same as progressing. And rushing toward an outcome does not always bring it closer. Sometimes it pushes it further away. If this lesson is speaking to you, subscribe right now, because the second half of today goes even deeper. The practices in Truth 7 are going to give you something real you can use starting today. Don't miss them. Now, think about one area of your life where you have been pushing too hard, where you have been forcing something that is not moving. What would it feel like to step back just slightly and let that thing grow in its own time? Not to abandon it, not to give up, just to stop fighting the timing. Water does not rush downhill. Water flows, and it always arrives. You do not need to carry the full weight of every result in every moment. Do your part, plant your seeds, take your action, and then trust what you cannot control. The next truth is going to change the way you think about a word most people misunderstand. That word is empty. Truth 5, the power of empty. Laozi wrote one of the most surprising things in the Tao Te Ching. He wrote about a wheel. He said that a wheel has many spokes, but it is the empty space at the center that makes the wheel turn. Without that hollow space, the wheel is useless. He wrote about a clay pot. The pot has solid walls, but it is the empty space inside that holds the water. Without the emptiness, the pot holds nothing. He wrote about a room. The room has 4 walls, a ceiling, a floor. But you don't live inside the walls. You live in the empty space between them. The point was simple. Emptiness is not nothing. Emptiness is what makes something useful. Listen closely. Most of us have been taught our entire lives to fill. Fill the schedule. Fill the mind with information. Fill the silence with noise. Fill every moment with something productive. We believe that a full life is a rich life. And we have become quietly afraid of empty space because empty space feels like wasted time. But Lao Tzu is asking us to think differently. A completely full cup cannot receive anything new. A mind that never stops cannot hear the quiet things. A life with no space has no room for unexpected moments of clarity, rest, or joy. When you pack every minute, you are actually removing the very conditions that allow your best thinking and your deepest peace to arrive. If your mind is always full of noise, if your days are packed from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep, if silence makes you uncomfortable and stillness feels like failure, then you may have forgotten something essential. Space is where insight lives. The quiet moment is where real understanding happens. Think about the times in your life when something suddenly became clear. A solution appeared without you searching for it. A decision settled itself. A feeling you had been avoiding finally became something you could hold. Where were you when that happened? Most people say, in the shower, on a walk, just before sleep. Staring out of a window on a long journey. Not at their desk, not checking their phone, not in a meeting. The mind, when given a little emptiness, does extraordinary things. It connects things that were separate. It heals things that were broken. It finds answers to questions you stopped consciously asking. Modern brain science confirms what Laozi saw thousands of years ago. The brain at rest is not idle, it is working, but only when it has space to do so. Most people treat stillness as something they will get to later, when the work is finished, when the children are older, when things calm down. But things rarely calm down on their own. You have to create the calm deliberately. You have to choose the space. One of the simplest Tao practices is this: do less on purpose for a small part of each day. Not because you are lazy, but because full effort without rest, without pause, becomes less effective over time. You are not a machine. You are a living thing. And living things need both movement and stillness to stay healthy. A musician understands that music is not only the notes, it is the silence between the notes. Remove every silence and you no longer have music, you have noise. Your life works the same way. The pause between actions, the breath between conversations, the quiet morning before the day begins. These are not wasted moments. These are where you remember who you are. These are where the Tao finds you. You don't need hours of silence every day. Start with 5 minutes. Just 5 quiet minutes with no phone, no task, no agenda. Let your mind rest. Let it breathe. And pay attention to what arrives in that space. Emptiness is not the opposite of a full life. It is the condition that makes a full life possible. Truth 6. The paradox that changes everything. There is a paradox at the heart of the Tao, and once you see it clearly, it will change the way you understand almost every area of your life. Here it is. The more desperately you try to force a change, the more you hold that thing exactly in place. And the moment you genuinely accept it, it begins to shift by itself. This sounds backwards. It feels wrong. Stay with me. Because this is one of the most practical truths in everything we have covered today. Think about a person who cannot sleep. Night after night, they lie in bed, eyes open. They think, I have to sleep. If I don't sleep, tomorrow will be ruined. Why can't I sleep? What is wrong with me? The harder they force sleep, the further it moves. The anxiety about not sleeping creates more anxiety. More anxiety creates more sleeplessness. The fighting keeps the problem alive. Now, what happens when this person stops fighting? When they say quietly and honestly, I am not sleeping tonight. I accept that. I will simply rest here. No agenda, no pressure. Almost always, sleep arrives. The same pattern appears everywhere. The person who desperately wants to find love and carries that desperation into every conversation finds that connection becomes harder. The moment they stop forcing it and begin enjoying their own life, something opens. The athlete who tightens with anxiety in the final moment of competition performs below their best. The athlete who breathes, accepts the pressure, and plays without grasping often finds something extra. This is not magic. When you fight against the state, you pour your energy into keeping it alive. Your attention feeds it, your resistance gives it strength. When you genuinely accept something, you stop giving it that fuel. And without your resistance, it can begin to move. Most people believe that to feel better, they must first change their circumstances. The Tao teaches something different. To change your circumstances, you must first change the way you are holding them. The Tao changes nothing on the outside and transforms everything on the inside. And when the inside changes, the outside follows. Marcus Aurelius, who led one of the most powerful empires in ancient history, wrote something that touches this exact truth. He said that we cannot always control what happens around us. We can only choose how we respond. And the path to real inner freedom is learning to accept what is outside our control while acting clearly and wisely on what is within it. He was a Roman emperor. Laozi was a Chinese philosopher. They lived in different centuries on different sides of the world. They arrived at the same place because it is true. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is power. It is the power to see without panic, to act without needing a specific result, to move through hard times without being destroyed by them. Not because you don't care, but because your peace is no longer dependent on how things turn out. That is freedom, real freedom, the kind that no circumstance can take away. Here is a small practice. The next time you feel yourself in strong resistance, try saying these words out loud, if you can. I accept that this is where I am right now, not forever, not happily necessarily. Just right now, this is what is true. Notice what happens in your body when you say that. The tightness often begins to release. The grip loosens. And from that released place, real movement becomes possible. You cannot steer a car that is not moving. You cannot change what you refuse to honestly see. Acceptance is not the final step. It is always the first one. Truth 7. 5 practices that change everything. 7 truths, 7 ideas. And ideas are only useful if they change something in the way you actually live. This is where we move from understanding into doing. Because the Tao was never meant to stay inside a book. It was meant to enter the daily life. The small moments, the quiet morning, the difficult conversation, the traffic, the night when sleep will not come. The Tao does not stay in books. The Tao does not stay in ideas. The Tao lives in the way you choose to move through your ordinary day. Let me make this simple. Here are 5 practices. They are small, they cost you almost nothing. But practice regularly, they have the power to quietly shift the way you experience your life. Practice 1. 1 minute of stillness in the morning. Before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before the day's demands enter your mind. Sit quietly for 60 seconds. Just breathe. Let the mind settle like water after a storm. You are not solving anything. You are not trying to feel a certain way. You are simply starting your day from a place of stillness instead of urgency. That one small choice repeated every morning builds something steady inside you over time. Practice 2. Notice without judging. When a feeling arrives during your day, try to notice it without judging yourself for having it. Instead of, I am so anxious, what is wrong with me? Try saying quietly, there is anxiety here right now. Instead of, I am angry at myself, try, anger is present in this moment. This small shift creates a little space between you and the feeling. And in that space, the feeling often loses its grip. You become the river, not the rock. Practice 3. Say I release this instead of I give up. When you decide to stop fighting something you cannot control, choose your words carefully. Don't say I give up. Say I release this. It is not surrender. It is the willow bending in the wind. It is Wu Wei living in your own language. Practice 4. Ask this one question. When stress arrives before you react, pause and ask honestly, is this mine to control? If yes, act clearly and calmly. If no, breathe. Say, I release this. And return your attention to what you actually can influence. Flow, don't fight. That one question asked consistently can stop a significant amount of suffering before it even builds. Not because your problems go away, but because you stop spending energy on the ones that were never yours to carry. Practice 5. Let the river guide you today. Once a day, in a quiet moment, imagine your life as a river. Ask yourself gently, where am I fighting the current right now? Where am I pushing against something that would move by itself if I released it? This is not passive. The farmer still plants, but the farmer has stopped arguing with the season. These 5 practices do not require a perfect life. They do not require free time you don't have. They only require a willingness to try something slightly different, one small moment at a time. And one more thing, you don't need to begin all 5 tomorrow. Start with one. The practice that felt most true to you as you listened. Return to the others when you are ready. The Tao is patient. It has been here for thousands of years. It will still be here next week. You have everything you need to begin, right here, right now. You have reached the end of this lesson. And it is also, if you choose it, the beginning of something new. Today you heard 7 truths from the ancient Tao. That stress is born inside the mind, not delivered from outside. That letting go is wisdom, not failure. That emptiness holds power. That timing is not your enemy. That acceptance begins transformation. And that 5 small practices repeated consistently are enough to change the way you experience your life, without changing a single thing about your circumstances. You don't need a different life to feel different. You only need to change the way you hold the life you already have. Laozi wrote something that captures all of this in just a few words. He said, act without forcing, and nothing is left undone. Flow, don't fight. That is the heart of the Tao, and today it is yours. Keep listening daily, English learners. Your English will grow with your mind. If this lesson helped you, please subscribe right now and click the bell. Leave a comment below with just one word, flow, and tell me which of the 7 truths landed most deeply for you today. Your comment means more than you know. And our next lesson, The Art of Doing Nothing, How Wu Wei Changes Everything, continues exactly where today ends. Don't miss it. The river is already moving. You don't have to fight it.